Greetings, this is Scotty Reed with a Black Talk Radio news report. Please check out my podcast and live broadcast. You can find out more information by going to blacktalkradionetwork.com. This is a video that I said to our listeners last night that I was going to make. I didn't get to make it last night. It got kind of late, but I'm making it now. As you may or may not know, depending upon what news outlets you follow, then a prison strike against prison slavery as authorized by the 13th Amendment of the US Constitution that says involuntary servitude and slavery shall be abolished except as a punishment for crime when a person is so-called duly convicted, which has resulted in a lot of wrongful convictions. So slavery was never abolished. We've been lied to for 150 years since the conclusion of the American Civil War, which was ultimately about slavery, but that's not why Lincoln entered into the war. Well, he really didn't have a choice, but I don't want to get sidetracked here. This is about the lack of information that we get from black media particularly. So on August the 21st, you had the nationwide strike by prisoners inside of prisoners who are striking, not going to their slave jobs, doing sit-ins for those that don't have slave jobs, or going on hunger strikes. This is perhaps the largest. Now, there was another strike last year that was portrayed by those who reported on it as the largest prison strike in the nation's history. We're talking about the United States. Okay, now this one is even larger with more prisons and more states participating. And right now we are getting reports that prisoners are being abused for participating in this peaceful demonstration and protest against modern day slavery and human trafficking is authorized by the 13th Amendment. So we're going to use Twitter as our barometer. Lots of the major, what we might call mainstream news organizations are on Twitter. And, you know, it's just a shame that we have people in, let's say, news organizations based in Arab countries, news organizations based in the United Kingdom, all these different news organizations, and there's only been a few here in the United States who have given the prison strike any kind of coverage. USA Today did a piece. While the ACLU isn't a news outlet, they do publish a blog and they wrote about it. And so there's a few others, but my focus for this video is black media, or media that targets black people. Listen, the reason that we felt the need to create our nonprofit Black Talk Media Project and blacktalkradionetwork.com, the platform, is because I started doing some research. Actually, I saw Malcolm X state in a video, and I read his quote about how media is the most powerful entity on the planet, how it controls the minds of the masses. And then I started reading about the death of black terrestrial radio. A lot of people may not know that black terrestrial radio, I'm talking about community radio stations on the FM or AM dial, played a key role during the civil rights movement, during the Black Power movement, and we started losing them due to the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which was a bipartisan bill passed by a Republican Congress and signed into law by Bill Clinton. What this did was allow big corporations that were involved in terrestrial radio to buy up stations or put more stations in any given market, which would drown out the independent black terrestrial radio. They wouldn't be able to compete for advertisement dollars, because that's how terrestrial radio makes revenue and is able to engage in their radio operations. So that's why we look to digital radio and the internet to fill that void that was created by the 1996 Telecommunications Act. Now, a lot of people, especially millennials, get their information from social media. So here is the hashtag prison strike. There's other related hashtags, prison strike 2018 or prisoners strikes. But we're going to go with the hashtag prison strike because that's what the prisoners themselves created in some of their, or mentioned in some of their publications. So anyway, we're in the news section for prison strike. And I see since I started the video, we got 8 new results. So we're going to look at who's writing about the prison strikes. So we got Arizona News Updates. That's not a mainstream outlet. Well, azcentral.com actually is sort of mainstream. They're writing about the prison strikes, the human trafficking aspect of it, when you have prisoners taken from their homeland in Hawaii and then shipped to Arizona to these private prisons and what have you. So that's the element when we say slavery and human trafficking is authorized by the 13th Amendment. That's an example of it right there. Let's see, we got the New Virginia Majority, who is writing about the prison strikes. And, you know, the ICE, the refugees who have been detained by ICE and are in these private prisons have joined in with American prisoners in expressing their solidarity, and they join the prison strike. So this is coming to you from Newsweek.com. All right, we'll continue. That's the same article from Newsweek. Abolish private prisons. They sent an article out from Vox.com, so they're covering it, talking about how the federal government markets prison labor to businesses. Again, this is slavery. We got The Guardian, theguardian.com. That's a UK-based paper or outlet, news outlet. They wrote about it. They're writing about this specific prisoner in Texas who was thrown into solitary confinement for writing and speaking out about, you know, the prison labor. Prison slavery, and standing in solidarity with other prisoners. Let's see who else wrote about it. We got Mike.com. They're sort of mainstream. Let's see, we'll continue. See, The Guardian, NBC News. It's time to end prison slavery and treat incarcerated people. So we even got NBCnews.com. That's a major mainstream media outlet. So they are publishing. There's The Guardian with another article. The Nation, thenation.com, which is, I would consider it alternative news outlet, but they have a pretty huge subscriber base. So they're writing about it. Okay. And it kicked off on August the 21st, and that's where many of these posts on Twitter are coming from. So who else do we have? That's thenation.com again, Vox.com, The Guardian again, Vox.com, The Guardian again, NPR. Now, they're not really striking just over poor living conditions. I haven't seen this entire article. I think Max, my co-host on New Abolitionist Radio, which we have been doing since 2013, to highlight the fact that slavery was never abolished and to point out prison slavery in the United States. Okay, so NPR at least wrote something about it. Okay, Guardian again. Let me see, where's this article? There's the ACLU talking about it. All right, so that's a Vox. thinkprogress.org. That's an alternative leftist news outlet. So they have written about it. Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there. Let me scroll back up to the top. Here are some of the top posts. But that was from news outlets. But here's some of the top posts. See, AZ Central got the top spot, the latest. So they've just reported that. And we have IWOC tweeting about it. We have a Susie Exposita tweeting about it. E. Tong tweeting about the human trafficking aspect. Let's see, educate, podcast. There must be an ad. That has nothing to do with it. Prison slavery, August 21st, of course. They are tweeting about it. All right. Now, let's see who's not tweeting about it. Now, let's first go back to the abolitionist movement against slavery, the abolishing slavery, not all this other stuff that people want to tie it to, but we're talking specifically about slavery. During pre-American Civil War slavery, prior to the Civil War, black newspapers were known as abolitionist papers, but you had black newspapers back then. You had some white-black partnerships that were also putting out newspapers about ending slavery and what have you. So that's here we are in this modern period of post-American Civil War slavery, and of course we don't have those same outlets anymore. But we do have outlets that target black people. All right. So I went to The Root. The Root is owned by, I believe, Univision, a Mexican-based company, even though it was started by Henry Louis Gates. So I went through their timeline. If I can get this to load up, y'all bear with me. Let me go ahead and refresh that. I went through their timeline, going all the way back to the 21st. TheRoot.com, which likes to write about racism, police brutality, mass incarceration, but they are writing nothing about one of the most historical or largest prison strikes against slavery, modern slavery in the United States. All right, I didn't give it time to load up, but y'all bear with me. But I went all the way back to the 20th. And y'all, trust me, I went through their timeline because I want to make sure I have my facts straight. So here's some of the things they've tweeted about just 56 minutes ago. And again, I've already went through their entire timeline. None of their writers have written about, and if they have written about it, I haven't seen it, but it hasn't even come across their Twitter timeline. You think they will be targeting, helping to spread this information about the largest rebellion against slavery in the history of the United States. So they tweeted Ava DuVernay. Now, I'm going to point Ava DuVernay out. She did write the film or put together the documentary, The 13th, which is based on the 13th Amendment. And she has been tweeting about the prison strikes, the national prison strikes against prison slavery. She's one of the few black celebrities to be tweeting about it. But, that's not surprising since she is aware of it because she put out a documentary called The 13th. Okay, so we're just going to go through some of these. But take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Go through all of their timeline going back to their post on the 21st. And there is nothing about prison slavery. And this is an outlet that targets black people, that a lot of black people get their news and information from. I'm not a fan of The Root because I think they write as if their audience is a bunch of 8th graders or something. So nothing about it in the past 24 hours. Let's go to BET. Again, I've already checked their timelines for the sake of time. I'm not going to show you all the way back to the 21st, but you can find them on Twitter and look yourself. So let's get this time to load up. Hopefully it will be where I stopped at on the 20th. And this is a shame, and you ought to be outraged about it. Now, the new abolitionist movement is not a color-coded movement, but one has to acknowledge that black people, followed by brown people, Hispanics, Latinos, whatever, they are most impacted by prison slavery. So you would think that these outlets targeting black people would be tweeting about this prison strike, okay? But they're not. So we're on BET. 3 new tweets. Let's see if these tweets have anything to do. And of course, BET isn't owned by black people, but there are some other outlets that are owned by black people. They aren't, I wouldn't consider them mainstream, but think of your favorite so-called leftist or black radical outlet, and then check their website if they're writing about the prison strikes. Check their Twitter, see if they are writing about the prison strikes or even retweeting some of the prison strikes. They are not. I've checked them. All right, so here we go, going down BET's timeline, see if they are tweeting anything about the prison strike. Again, I have already been through it all. BET, of course, stands for Black Entertainment Television. They are owned by Viacom, and they're not, it's basically all entertainment, although there was some news, racism related news about some white person committing a crime against a black person, a crime of a racist nature, but nothing. So here we go. People are calling on us for just being black. This lady has committed a crime. Call the police. All right. So we've seen all these white people calling the police. So it's not all about entertainment for BET. Every once in a while they'll post a news article, but they have posted nothing about this historic prison strike. Okay, trust me, I went all the way back to the 20th. So let me close these couple of these. The last one I'm gonna check is Ebony Magazine, also targets black people. I'm not so sure about their ownership. Let's go ahead and let Ebony Magazine. And I mean, if you're a black person or any subscriber to, but it's specifically if you're a black person, let's just keep it real, and you have these outlets that are targeting you, you got to ask yourself, why are they ignoring a historic prison protest against modern day slavery as authorized by the 13th Amendment? Okay, so as you can see, I did go all the way back here. I kept my place on Ebony, going back to the 21st to see if they, okay, that's the 20th. A lot of entertainment stuff. Here's one about the black teen who is said to have committed suicide while it seems to be impossible for him to commit suicide. So again, it's not all entertainment, it's just the majority of it's entertainment. All right, so talking about racism, okay, some kind of product. Ebony talking about Madonna. So let me just keep going up. I mean, trust me, please trust me, or don't trust me, and go through their timelines that I have shown you, going all the way back to the 21st, and you won't see anything about the prison strikes. Okay, so I'm gonna stop it there before Twitter locks up my browser. All right, so there's something that Black Talk Radio tweeted out the other day, and it's a quote from Dr. King, Martin Luther King Jr., and it's applicable to these outlets, especially specifically the black outlets. If you can have white outlets in the UK, Arabian outlets, I'm not sure where Al Jazeera is based, but they did they have been covering it, even did on their YouTube channel and on television, had some prisoners call in and what have you, and also had some of the organizers that work with us. So let me see if I can find my tweet about those who have been quiet about the prison strikes. And what did Dr. King say about that? Y'all bear with me as I load it up. See, prison slavery, that's not the one. Here it is right here. And as I state, what does the new abolitionist movement say about all your favorite celebrities and politicians who claim to be about justice but are silent while the largest modern slave rebellion is occurring in the USA in the prisons? And we will throw in these outlets that I have highlighted in this video. What did Dr. King say? There comes a time when silence is betrayal. So again, ask yourself, why aren't your favorite black publications, we can even take it out of the mainstream and go to some of the alternative media, some of your popular black YouTubers, all right, who talk about racism, talk about immigration, talk about black wealth, talking about everything but these historic prison strikes against prison slavery, all right? They ain't talking about it. So guess what? They're betraying. They're betraying the communities that they claim to serve, that are the #1 targets of prison slavery as authorized by the 13th Amendment of the US Constitution. For those who have never had the occasion to read about what the 13th Amendment says, here's another tweet I put out. I don't understand the cognitive dissonance on display by so-called woke black intellectuals who speak on the abuses of America but are not lending any kind of support to the prison strikes against slavery. Why are they silent on the issue of 21st century slavery in the USA? You got to ask yourself about it. You know, Black Talk Media Project has been producing New Abolitionist Radio since 2013. It's a weekly program, 2-hour-long program. We brought on many guests, law professors, to highlight the fact that the 13th Amendment never abolished slavery. So in case you've never read the 13th Amendment, here's an image of the 13th Amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. All right, so you can't claim to abolish something but then carve out an exception for it, and that is what the prison strikes are about. Ask these people, tweet at them and ask them, why are they betraying the black community? Even though, you know, we're not a color-coded movement, slavery impacts us all, legalized slavery and human trafficking impacts us all, U.S. citizens and non-citizens alike. And so you got to ask your favorite YouTuber, you got to ask these black outlets that you follow why they are silent, while you have these other mainstream outlets who have given it coverage. All right, this has been Scotty Reed with a Black Talk Radio News Report. Please continue to support independent black media by making a donation to the North Carolina-based nonprofit Black Talk Media Project. Peace to the abolitionists, death to the slavers.